In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Packet Tracer. This is the new Packet Tracer version 7.2.1. You're going to need to go to the website on Netacad to get the download for your, or get the username and password. It's a free username and password, and then you'll be able to do the download and get it from there. I'm going to show you how to add some devices to start with. So we're going to start with our routers. I always like to add the simple 1841 router. You're going to need 2 of those. So I'm just going to throw 2 of those on here. Okay, and then we're going to need some switches. So I click on switches, and we're going to need the 2960 switch. Throw one on each side. Essentially have 2 networks. Notice when I put them on, I always put the one on the 0 on this left-hand side, and the one with the 1 on this other side, on this side over here. That's going to help in the future. Okay. I'm also going to want to click on the wireless device, and I'm going to need the access point PT. That's this guy right here. I'm going to need one for each side. Okay, put that over there. And then I'm going to need some other devices. So I click on devices, and I'm going to need a server for each side. So we'll put a server here and a server here and a PC. I'll just put one here and one PC on this side, and then I'll add a laptop and a printer on this side. All right, so now once we have all of our devices on the logical layer, we'll want to connect them together. So I click on the little connection, it's the lightning bolt, and if I click on the lightning bolt here, it's going to auto select what it is. Okay, so I don't need to worry about what type, because it will auto select for me and allow me to connect those together with the right cabling. And connected to that switch, and this access point connected, and this access point connected. Okay, now we want to set up our services. Okay, so this server here is going to be a DHCP server. It's going to give out IP addresses for its network on this side. So I'm going to click on the server, and before I get started, I want to configure the global settings for the network card, network interface card on this server. The first thing we want to set is the default gateway. Now we know on this side of the network, let's move this over a little bit. This side of the network, this is going to be the default gateway. And in fact, this port here is going to be the default gateway, because all of these devices are going to have to go through this port to go off the network. Okay, so we're going to set that to 192.168.1.1. And the DNS server is 192.168.1.2. Now the DNS server is going to be this server. So we'll just set that as the DNS server 1.2, and then we'll go to services, or we'll go down to the fast Ethernet, and we'll set that as 192.168.1.2 with a default subnet mask. We're not going to subnet this anymore. Make sure that port's turned on. Okay, so we have the static, this server's IP is going to be a static IP address of 1.2. Now, go into our services. The first service we want to set up is DHCP. So we turn it on. We set the default gateway, 192.168.1.1. Okay. The DNS server, 192.168.1.2. Now, the cool thing is this DNS server, this information, default gateway, DNS server, the IP, all this information is going to be sent out by the DHCP server to every single device. So we don't have to set that on every single one. Okay. Now we need to tell it what the pool is. The first IP address is going to be 3. Now why 3? Because the server is number 2 and the gateway is number 1. So we start at 3, and it's fine to keep that same subnet mask. And then we just click save, and notice how it changes all the information down here. So we just click save. Okay. Now at this point, we can close the services, go to our PC, go to our config, actually it's even better on the desktop, and click on IP address and just set it to DHCP. And notice that it grabs it. It grabbed the first one, 1.3, set the default gateway, and set the DNS server, just like we wanted. Okay, so let's look down here at this laptop. On this laptop, Notice it has an Ethernet port, okay? A RJ45 connector is supposed to go in there. So what we want to do is we want to turn it off, and we want to drag that out. And we want to grab the wireless port, which is this WPC300, and we want to drag it right on there, and then turn it back on, okay? That's going to give us a wireless connection, okay? And we want to do the same thing with this printer. We turn it off, drag the port off, drag this port on, and turn it back on, okay? Now, that's all we pretty much have to do on these two, except we'll configure their DHCP in just a second. Now notice they're going to the wrong access point. That's because this access point is physically located closer to this access point. So now is a good time to actually talk about the physical part. So if I click on physical, I have one home city. Okay. If I double click and go into the home city, I have one corporate office. I want to add a corporate office. So let's go up here and just click. This one says add a new building. Okay, so now I have two buildings. Within my second building, I want to add a network closet. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out on this so we could see it a little bit better. And I added a network closet. Okay, go back in this corporate. I have my network closet, but I also have a lot of other devices. So I want to put this printer. Let's just put the printer in the laptop. Notice these are both 0. Okay, this is building 0, so let's do that. And then let's look, here's PC 0. This PC needs to go to the other office. So I'm just going to come up here and click on the move button and say move it to the office building, so it's out of here. And you notice it left because this line is now stretching across and going off the page. It won't do that when I move the switch. So if I go into the network closet, all the ones that have 1 on it, I want to move them. This is the power distribution. This is the router. This is the router 1. So I want to move router 1. So I'm just going to move it to office building, and I want to put it in that wiring closet. I also want to move switch 1. So I click on switch 1, and I move it to that wiring closet. And I can actually move this up and move this up. And if I come down here, I can move access point 1. So I click on access point 1 and move it to that wiring closet. And here's my server for 1. And I want to move server for the other server and move that to the office building wiring closet. Okay, and if I scroll down, that looks great. Okay, now when I go back out and I see the whole picture, notice that this only has 1 line going across, and if I go back once more, that's that 1 line connecting the 2 buildings together, and it happens to be those 2 routers. I go into this office building, I can move the it should just be that one device is out here. I need to add more devices, but for right now we're good. Now let's go back to logical. Actually, if we go let's go out of this one and go out a little bit so we can see what's going on. Scroll in a little bit, scroll over. Something to help out a little bit, we can say, instead of corporate network, we can call this one network 0, and this one over here, network, actually it'd be better if we said something like network 2. In your assignment, it will be named something different, and this one here will be network 1, essentially meaning that this one is 192.168.1.0. That's that network, and this is 192.168.2.0. Okay, let's see. I think I have get rid of all that and just put it like that. Otherwise, it kind of looks a little bit funky. Okay. So that looks good for as far as the physical location goes. Now let's go back to logical and see what happened to our wireless devices. Boom. Notice that they actually go wireless just like this. If I click on the laptop now, go to desktop, click IP config, notice it's getting the 1.4, and it also has the right default gateway. So that one's working perfectly. And notice this one is also working good. It has the right default gateway. If we go down here to wireless, it tells you it's getting 1.5 from the IP address. So that's pretty much everything that you need to do for the basics of this network. Okay, you'll need to configure this side for DHCP. So let's do the real quick setup for HTTP. You essentially click on HTTP over here, and this index file is the one that's going to go to automatically when we do, like, if we change it to something else. So I can come over here and say, all right, so we want to edit this index.html page. What we'll do is we'll just take this top part and call it Walt Disney World. Something fun. And that's pretty much all we need to do. Maybe get rid of, no, that should be perfectly fine. Now I'm going to click save and yes, and then I can close that file manager down. So that is how we edit this index file. Now, how is it when we go to 192.168.1.2 that this HTTP shows up as that index file? So if we go to the DNS, what we want to put in first is the name. And I'm pretty sure it's waltdisneyworld.com, and the address is 192.168.1.2, and we click add, and that's it. And we want to turn on the DNS service. Okay. So now if I go to the PC and I go to the web browser, I should be able to go to waltdisneyworld.com, click go, and notice that the index file says Walt Disney World, just like we did it at the top. So that's how we get that working. Now, the last thing I want to show you is turning on these routers. Again, this is the 0 side and this is the 1 side. On this router, we're going to configure this port here, and then we'll configure the other port. So we need to find out what those ports are. I like to highlight over them, and it says it's 00. And then if we highlight over this one, it's 01. So in here, I'm going to go into config and 00 and turn it on 192.168.1.1 with the default subnet mask. Okay. Then on 0.0.1, turn it on 10.0.0.1 default subnet mask. Okay. Then what I'll go is back into settings and click save. Okay, so I just want to make sure I save it. All right, so that one's done. Then I want to go to this side. Again, that is 00 and that one is 01. So I click in here, go to config 00 and 10.0.0.2 subnet mask, turn it on, and 0.1 192.168.2.1. That's going to be the default gateway for that side, and turn it on, and then go back to settings and click save, and that saves the whole configuration. And I'm going to go ahead and close that. And now you'll see that all the lights turn green. And the last thing you'll need to do is on this side, you'll need to set up this as a DHCP server, okay, for the 192 network. So if I come over here under services, DHCP, turn it on. Default gateway on this side is 192.168.2.1 with the default subnet mask of, or no, 192.168.1.2 is the DNS server. That DNS server is on the other side. It's over here. So you don't need to have two DNS servers on your network. Okay. And then the start of the IP address. Well, before we do any of this, let's go to configure under settings and actually configure it 2.1 DNS server 1.2. Okay, then go down to the interface 192.168. This server is going to be 2.2 with that default subnet mask. Make sure it's turned on. And then when we go to services, turn it off, turn it back on. notice that this IP address auto-populated. It wasn't auto-populating before. That's why I had to turn it off and go out of it, because you really should configure the server first. Set all the hard ports first on that server, then set up DHCP. But let's set the default gateway on this side of the router is going to be 2.1 and then 192.168.1.2. That puts us at the DNS servers on this side, okay? And then again, we want to start it at 3 and just click save, okay? Now at this point, we should be able to jump into this computer, set it to DHCP, and it's getting it just right, okay? And then the server is already done. So on this computer, web browser, www.com, should work. It doesn't look like it's going to work. It might take just a second to get across there. It might not know where it's going. It might time out. Let's just see what it does. What we could also do is use the command prompt, and we can ping, okay? So ping 192.168.2.1, and it's going to get that reply. And that right there is this side of that router, okay? Well, let's ping the other side of the router. So ping 10.0.0.2, and it's going to get that reply. Let's do .1, and it's not going to get the reply. And I know why. I just remembered. There's one more step we need to do. We need to go into the router, and we need to go into the RIP settings, and we just need to add those two addresses. So this side, router 1, needs to know the 10.0.0 address. We'll just say .0 address, and it needs to know about the 192.168.2.1, and when you click on it, it just basically puts the network ID down here, okay? Again, go to settings and hit save, okay? Do the same thing on router 0, go into RIP. That's a routing protocol, 192.168.1.1. Just click add. It'll add it as a network address, and 10.0.0.0. Click add, and now it knows. It knows. So essentially, what you're doing is saying, "Hey, use the routing or the routing protocol to figure out the how traffic is going to traverse these routers." And now I'm going to go back to settings and click save again. So that's been saved. All right. Now, if I ping again what I just pinged, now I'm going to get that reply. So I pinged from that PC1, it came across and it pinged this this port here, and it worked. So now we should be able to get that. Go back to the desktop. Let's close this and go to WaltDisneyWorld.com, and it should go all the way across. There we go. It did. It went. I just didn't click go. Walt Disney World came across. Might take just a second for it to finally get across, but it did come across. And that's coming from PC1, which is on this side of the network. It's traversing both routers and coming and hitting this router or this server on the other side and coming back. And that's what you should do. Now, be real careful when you're following those instructions for the assignment. There's a lot more devices than this. They all need to be configured correctly, and they all need to be done both logically and physically. Hopefully this will help. If you have any questions, shoot me an email or leave a comment in the comment section below.